and welcome back to Beyond the Northern Wall, a live YouTube talk show with myself, Kayla Malari, as your host from the Core Dance Crew. Now, if this is your, let me fix my lighting. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Kayla Malari. I am the current CEO and one of the co-founders of the Core Dance Crew. I also played Shoto Todoroki. Yes, I am a girl. I played Shoto Todoroki in our Boku no Hero set, and I also, in our ATM set, I played Sailor Jupiter, as you saw in the opening sequence, and I played Hanji a lot in our past AOT set. I couldn't think of what it was. AOT sets. So this is our weekly talk show, where I talk about anything and everything related to core, no matter how close in it and far away. So we talk about anime, comic books, our sets, performances, dancing, leadership, everything in between, dealing with everyone in general. And so with this, the third episode, if you're coming back, this is the third episode of the short, brief, annotated history of the core. If this is your first time here, in the last 2 weeks, I've been going over the history of the Core Dance Crew from our very first iteration back in 2013 up until now. We've just hit 2015, 2016 year. So if you haven't seen the first 2 episodes, that's okay. You don't have to. You can always go back and watch episodes 1 and 2. They are on our YouTube channel. Or you can just stick around and watch this one while it's streaming live. So just so you know, there is a little bit of a delay between the streams. So whatever you're saying in the chat, I will try to keep up with it. But yeah. So we started a little early today. And this will be saved. Sorry, this will be saved on our YouTube channel. So all episodes of Beyond the Northern Wall live talk show will be saved on our YouTube channel. With that being said, we are going to move on into the next part 3 of the history of the Core Dance Crew, because the 2015 into the 2016 year is actually 2016 year is actually chock full of a lot of stuff. So let me pull up my notes, because I have to write notes on this because I don't remember everything. I tried going over this beforehand, and there's a lot to think about when it comes to the year of what we did. So where we ended last year, or last week, on last week's episode. Sorry, my awesome Iron Man chair squeaks a lot. Where we ended last week, on last week's episode, episode 2, we ended with Beyond the Northern Wall. So it's 2015, summer of 2015. We just performed Beyond the Northern Wall for the first time at Anime Expo, and then again at Anime California in August. And we ended the 2015 year with Beyond the Northern Wall. Now, when we ended that year, Beyond the Northern Wall became something that we didn't expect it to be. It was just supposed to be us having a lot of fun and trying to take our Attack on Titan roots and building on top of that with our own storyline of them venturing beyond the wall. It triggered this great and amazing and awesome response from people both at the conventions and online. And it opened up a lot of doors that we hadn't expected to open up at all. And so me and Sonali, because at the time me and Sonali are the only directors for this team. We've done it since 2013. We did it all the way to 2015. And it's end of August and beginning of September, which is usually the end of our season and the beginning of our season. So we're in this mode where we're like, okay, we have something really awesome. It's getting a really great response. People are messaging us. We had amazing fan art that came out, and we're like, we need to prepare for the new year. And it's not going to be a year like the last 2. It's going to be completely different. This is now our 3rd year of running what it was called at the time, the Survey Core Dance Crew. So we just ended Beyond the Northern Wall. A couple things happened at the beginning. One, everyone who had Attack on Titan anything, whether it was fan art, fan fiction, whether they were selling products of fan derivative paraphernalia from Attack on Titan, they got hit by Funimation asking for everyone to halt all production of things. So we were one of those people. Our name said the Survey Core Dance Crew. And if you took NJ's class from 2 weeks ago, she talked about building our logo. And so we took the Wings of Freedom logo from Attack on Titan, and we made a derivative version of it we called it the Wings of Expression. And instead of like the wings that you see on their cloaks, the Survey Course cloaks, we had NJ make a little kawaii wing, like a cute wing, as our version of it, but it was still derivative of the original. And so with Funimation kind of asking everyone to cease and desist on all of that stuff, we had to go back and think, okay, we got to think about this. We want to build this crew into something else, into something more. My eyelashes hurt. Into something more. And so if we're going to rebrand, this is the time to rebrand. Granted, we just finished Beyond the Northern Wall. We just got our name out there. People are just starting to talk about us as the Cervicore Dance Crew, and we're going to completely change everything. So we're like, we got to do it in a smart way. So with the name, the Cervicore Dance Crew, we're like, okay, we can't call ourselves that. Otherwise, we're going to be attached to Attack on Titan, we're going to be attached to Funimation, and we can't do that. We can't do that as artists. We can't take another artist's things. So like, okay, let's take that away. Let's call ourselves the Core Dance Crew. And here's why. One, not many people can say core. People see the word C-O-R-P-S and they say corpse. And that's weird to us because I came from a military family. Marine Corps, Peace Corps. That was normal for me, but it was also normal for Sonali and for everyone on the team. We all knew what core meant and we'd seen it in almost everything, but a lot of people didn't know what it meant, which was kind of funny and was kind of very indicative of who we were. People didn't know what to expect when they met us, and they always had a preconceived notion and then found out that we were something else completely. And so core kind of fit us because we're like, haha, it's not really what it looks like it is. And then from there we had NJ build a new logo. So we wanted to keep that swirl, that kawaii swirl that she talked about. One, because we wanted to keep the cute wing, but at the same time, Soulmate made a nice observation. She's like, it's kind of like what we are. It comes from a center, the swirl, the core logo. This was made by our wonderful Queen Kitsune Cosplay. She made this. So if you see the core logo, it starts with a swirl in the center, and it keeps the kawaii whirl swing in there. It looks like a C, of course, but we don't actually look at it as a C, even though it is clearly a C. But the whole idea of like the spiral is how me and Sonali create things. It always starts with a small idea, and it literally spirals out of control. So this was a perfect indication of what our minds look like. And then she kept these bars to hail back to our wings of expression, because the wings of expression had 3 feathers essentially coming out of it. What Shishi pointed out, Chris Stain, if you know Shishi from past sets, he was a captain at the time. He was like, oh, the 3 bars kind of look like rankings in the military, which is also cool because it kind of hails back again to our Survey Corps roots. So our new logo was kind of a perfect mix of where we came from and where we were going. So that was our new logo. This was our new name, the Core Dance Crew. And we were ready to take on the world. But we weren't ready to take on the world. Here's why we weren't ready. We were about to come from doing, so 12 months in a year. 12 months is how long our season lasts, from September all the way to August, okay? That's a whole season for us. Last season, we had done 7 performances in 12 months with 3 different sets. So imagine how long a set takes. It takes a lot of planning. There's choreography, there's blocking, there's costuming, there's makeup, there's hair, there's wigs, there's acting, there's creating the story, there's cleaning rehearsals, and then there's tech and all that stuff. There's a lot that goes on into our show. And we had done 7 performances last season with 3 sets. We were getting more performances coming in. After Beyond the Northern Wall, I had reached out to a lot more things because me and Sonali weren't people who knew what the convention scene was. So I was researching and I was reaching out. I was like, all right, let's take what we have and let's just throw it out there and see what bites we can get. Throwing out all our lines, see who wants us to perform. Because we got to get our name out there. If we want to build something, we got to do the legwork. And as we threw out lines, people started biting. A lot more than we expected. And so little did we know, but in the 2015 to 2016 year, we were about to up our output of creative production, going from 7 performances to 14 performances, and then going from 3 sets up to 7 sets. That's a lot, you guys. That is a lot of work. I know, we did so much. We don't realize what we do until after we do it. That's a lot of work. And these sets aren't short. Some of them are about 6 minutes long. The shortest set we have is about 6 to 7 minutes long. And then we would have sets as long as 30 to 45 minutes long. And in between there, we had about 15 and 20-minute sets, about 3 of those. There's a lot going on. This was also the year we decided that we would go to HHI. Now, if you don't know what HHI is, HHI stands for Hip Hop International. It's in the summertime. It's the big international hip hop competition that countries participate in. So people from all over the world, from New Zealand, from the Philippines, from Brazil, from Europe, from Africa, people come all over, from Canada, Brotherhood from Canada. That's what's in my head. Everyone comes around at the summer to Las Vegas in July, I think, July or August, end of July and August, to participate in Hip Hop International. It's a huge, huge competition. We decided, me and Soulmate were like, we're gonna do HHI on top of everything else. And so we have a lot of small performances, a lot of medium performances coming in, and then, did you hear that? That was crazy. And then a lot of these big performances. And we had to think about that in a really logical sense. We're like, okay, majority of the team at the time was not coming from the sense where they wanted to make core into something, their career. This was not, they weren't coming from a business standpoint. Core, which we were now, was something fun, was a dance team. It was professional, and it was something you dedicate your time to, but every one of us on core have an outside career. We all have jobs. We're all old. I am so old. You have to know right this second, I am 32 years old, going on to 33. I'm proud to be old. And at the time, I was like, what, 27, 20? I don't know math. I was 20s. I was in my late 20s. Ugh, my shorts. I was in my late 20s. I had a full-time career at Disney. For anyone who works at Disney, or you can even ask Sonali, it takes a lot to be full-time at Disney. You have to work to be entertainment full-time. You have to work a lot. So I am full-time, which means I'm literally working there every single day. 8 to 12-hour days at Disney. Yes, 30s are so much fun. And at the same time as doing that, other people are training to be doctors. We have nurses. We have full-time graphic designers. We have people in full-time technical school. Like, people are doing real big kid jobs and then doing core. So not everyone can dedicate the amount of time we needed to do all these performances. You must know, core rehearses 1 day a week, Tuesdays from 9 to 12:30 a.m. That is it. We did add rehearsals when we come up to a performance, but no matter what core says, we never had a hell week. We never had a week where every day for 7 days, we came in for like 9+ hours rehearsal. That's never happened. The latest we've stayed is probably 3 a.m. is when we would wrap up rehearsal, and then we would stay and clean up, and with going over logistics and stuff, then we'd get out around like 4. So we had some late nights, but not crazy ones, and not a lot. Now, once a week for 3.5 hours is not enough time to build the amount of sets that we were planning to build, to do up to 14 performances. So me and Sonali decided, with our board at the time, we decided, okay, we're going to do a new infrastructure. We were going to do a whole new overhaul of how core worked. We are going to have the large group of core, which we're going to call Omega Crew. Omega Crew is going to be everyone, and they're going to perform at the performances that we've been doing, which was maxed out in the fall. And then come spring, you have Fusion, and then late spring into summer is UB, and then in the summer, we have Anime Expo. 4 major performances, yeah? That's what people were used to. That was usually the collegiate run when it came to the hip-hop teams of SoCal. And so we're like, okay, so that will be the whole team. And then we're going to make this other squad, and we're going to do this other squad. It's going to be the people who want to dedicate their time. So we're not going to make anyone dedicate their time, extra rehearsal, extra performances, extra days off, because conventions aren't 1 day. They're about 3 or 4 days. So, and we have to be there all those days. So we're like, instead of forcing everyone to do that, we'll just do it to the people who can. Like my schedule, I'm at Disney every single day, but it's flexible. I can clock in days and then I can clock in my days to call off. Let's just do that so that we can split the load between the people who can take on this many performances and the people who just want to do the big ones. So that we're not taking away performance opportunities from people, but we're also not shackling people to being there more than they had expected to be there. So me and Soulmate came up with a new squad. Now, what were we going to call this new squad? This smaller squad? Well, hailing back to Attack on Titan days, we were going to call it the Special Operations Squad because that's what Levi's squad was called. Levi's squad was called Special Operations, and they didn't do what the rest of everyone else did. They did special missions. So that's where we came from. Special Ops Squad. So we created Special Ops Squad. And even in Special Ops Squad, we created 2 tiers, Alpha Squad and Beta Squad. Alpha Squad was a very small group, and they were the ones that we were going to take to HHI. Now, when you're going to HHI, this is not a ballpark run. It's not a milk run. It is hardcore parkour. It is intense training. These teams that have competed at HHI have been dancing together for years. If you know Quest Crew that won ABDC, literally, okay, everyone who's ever been on America's Best Dance Crew came from HHI. That's literally where the company that created HHI is what created America's Best Dance Crew, feeding directly into it. And then World of Dance, it's all interconnected. Yeah, America's Got Talent, it's all interconnected. We all know each other. So the Alpha Squad was supposed to be the squad that was going to HHI. Beta Squad was a little bit bigger, not as big as Omega Squad, but Beta Squad was everyone else who wasn't going to HHI necessarily with core, because there's other people that were going to HHI with other places of core, but they were also a little bit bigger in terms of grouping, but not as big as the Omega crew. And here's why. A lot of the performances that we were being asked to go to, the stages are small. Like, if Elsa is an indicator, this is a whole human, this is how big the stage was, okay? This is how big the stages were that they were asking us to perform at, because no one had seen what we had done before. Big crews weren't performing at these conventions. It was mostly singers or bands or maybe a soloist, but you didn't have crews performing. So people didn't know what to expect. So they're like, can you perform? We really want you to perform at our convention or at our event. And we said yes. And they're like, but our stage is only this big. And so what's indicative of core and a trait that all corpsmen end up developing over time, it's not an easy trait. It's a source of adaptability that whatever is on there is what you're working with. When I tell you, corpsmen have had to deal with the most insane stages that have ever been made, I'm not kidding. 107th year, if you ask Little Urban, ask her about Pangaea stage. It was a stage that was separating as we were dancing. And you bet your money we kept on dancing, even as Pangaea stage just opened up. Nifa said it in Hanadoki Con, which we get to in this year, we had all Beta Squad. There's about 16 of us on Beta Squad. We fit on a stage that maybe would fit 5. So it was a boon to us to have smaller squads. For so many reasons. We can now fit on the stage. We can do more performances. Having Alpha, Beta, Omega means that no one has to sacrifice their personal life or their work life in order to do core, but everyone who wants to do core and wants to put more into core, they get fed. So we're thinking, me and Sonali are thinking, we got it. This is a lot more work for us. This is a lot of work, keeping track of 3 different squads. But we're willing to do that work because it works for everyone else. I'm going to be quite honest with you. And this is a little bit delving into a subject that I'll get to later on, which is leadership. When you are a leader and you make decisions, it doesn't matter how much you think of your company. It doesn't matter how many avenues you get to. Not everyone's going to be happy. It's true. My American Idol, Bob Iger. If you know me, you know that people stan BTS, people stan Beyonce, people stan Taylor Swift, people love Robert Downey Jr. or Orlando Bloom or Cole Sprouse. Me, this is my American Idol. Bob Iger, the former CEO and current executive chairman of Disney, is my American Idol. I love this man. I wish he was my father. I kind of want to absorb his essence into me. I'm reading his book. If you like nonfiction that's really interesting, A Ride of a Lifetime is amazing. He talks about that, and one of my favorite quotes is, there's two favorite quotes. One is, your inexperience isn't an excuse for your failure, which I loved reading because I was like, oh my gosh, I've thought that same thing my whole life. His other thing was, there are parts of being a leader where you have to really just listen to everyone, and you have to be so open, and you have to be so considerate of your team. And then there are other times of being a leader where you just have to say, I am the boss, and this is what we got to do. And it's finding that happy medium. This new infrastructure of core, this special ops squad of Alpha and Beta, and then the large core of Omega, was me and Soulmate trying to find that happy medium, trying to listen to what our coresmen needed while also listening to what the company needed, which was more performances. It would work for the most part, but as I will get to later on, it does change the major roster of who's on core at this point. We've had a very consistent roster by this point for about 2.5 years. This whole structure and the way we run is going to show that there are some people that they were ready to move on and they had to move on with their lives, which is fine, because if you know, our alumni are still, I don't think there's a single alumni I don't talk to be quite honest, or that the core doesn't talk to and isn't in communication with. But it allowed for us to make alumni. There were people on core that after this year would move on to do other things, and it would allow for us to bring in other people. So, with that being said, we are at September, the beginning of the 2015-2016 year, and we have Special Ops Squad and the whole team. Now, the whole team is going to prepare for Maxed Out, which, if you remember, the past 2 years we've gone to Maxed Out and we've placed second. Amazingly, we've placed second 2 years in a row. Unheard of. Again, we are nobodies. Me and Soulmate are no one. We are two women in the community holding a team, and we are placing. Bizarre. But we're going to go back because we want the gold. We want that number one spot because we just want to earn it. We want to prove ourselves that we can do it. So, grand scheme of everyone is prepping for that. In the meantime, Special Ops Squad is prepping for our first time at what it was called at the time, Stan Lee's LA Comic-Con, when Stan Lee and Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, co-owned the con. I know that because I worked with Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. Cassandra Peterson is probably the greatest human being in the world. If you are not following her on Instagram, you should, because she's awesome. She's an 80s icon. She is the original diva, So that was the con that we were going to perform at. Super excited for it. Speaking of, that's later on. My sister actually she danced for Elvira before I danced for Elvira, so it was kind of cool because she was like, hey, she was dancing for Elvira at this time. She's like, I'm going to be performing at your convention. And Cassandra was like, that's awesome. So we're building a set, and we decided, okay, we have only a small group of us. What set are we going to do? This is when we created the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. set. Now, something that kind of grinds my gears is that a lot of people who watch our stuff kind of comment and say they didn't even watch the anime. They don't even know the comic books, which is that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but you're wrong. We do. We are actual nerds. It's weird when people go, oh my god, they did. Someone commented recently on our Boku no Hero that at least make them watch the series. Which was weird. We did watch the series. We're big fans of the series. That's why we made this set. And a lot of times people think we're not fans of the things we create. We are only fans of the things we create because we're not going to create something we don't know. So we created an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. set because we were all fans of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. At this time, I really, really loved core. And I do love core still. It's just that we're in quarantine. So that's my group of friends. So me and my group of friends, we have been watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. since forever. We had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. night at HQ, which if you know HQ was my home. I had a house. I owned a house back in the day. And we called it HQ because it was the headquarters for everything core related. And we would have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. nights, which usually consisted of us just like jumping around and screaming because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is so intense. So we decided we're going to do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. set. And what was awesome is putting together this set was brand new. There was a day, it's all of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will say it. There was a day that we decided to have a rehearsal, an added rehearsal outside of the evening rehearsals. We were doing Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we decided as a group, hey, you know what? We're going to come in on a Saturday. We're going to come in the morning because we need to build this opener for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We got to do it together because it's the first time that I was going to make something where we had introductions at the beginning. Sorry, I have to make sure. Introductions at the beginning. And we've never done that before, but you see that formula come later on. That introductory opener will be used later on in Teen Titans set, and most recently in Boku no Hero set. So this was the first time we were doing something like that, where we have to highlight each individual character. And so we're like, this is going to take a while. This is not something we can plan beforehand. We have to do organically. So let's come in for rehearsal. So we weren't at our normal studio that day, not at Elevation out in Long Beach. We went to a studio out in Orange, a studio that I had used back in the reality check days. And we were like, okay, you know what, let's just come in the morning and we'll probably work for like a couple of hours and then we'll call it a day. I remember it's me, Sonali, Steve, Amy, Chibs, my sister, Koki, Jenna, Hidalgo, Brandon, and Toby. So it's like a whole group of us that are doing this Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. set. And we came in that morning, and some people had breakfast and some people hadn't. So you know what, we're like, you know what? We're just filtering in. So how about some of us go get coffee. So some of us went down the street, got coffee, came back in, and we started working. Hours ticked by. Then we started to get hungry and we're like, let's take a quick little break and then let's all go grab food. So we all left and we grabbed food and we came back and we went back to working again. By the time we were done working, it was like 8 in the evening. We had gotten there at 10 a.m. We did not plan on staying that whole day. But we ended up as a unit, as a group, we're like, no, we're on such a roll. This is so much fun. We were laughing the whole time. We were enjoying everything. We were like, oh, what we're creating is so much fire, and everyone got a say. And by the time we were done, we had been there for almost 12 hours. And we didn't even notice, like, oh my gosh, it's nighttime. Like, we should probably call it a day. And I love that day because it was one of the first days where we were just surrounded by like-minded people, where we were like, we want to make something awesome and really intense, and we're not afraid to do the hard work for it. And so when I tell you, you got to find the people that are not afraid to put that hard work in there, it is amazing. Low-key at 6:30, my bro TP is actually going to be holding a Q&A on our Instagram live with Juju about her improv on Friday. So quick shout out. I know it's a lot of things at one time, but it's okay. You can leave this stream and you can go and watch her IG live and go interact with IG live because she's going to answer all your Q&A. You can come back and watch this stream later on. So you don't need to watch me right now. I see her because she's in the chat. Anyways, so we're building Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. set. Now, something major happened while we're putting together Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. set. We're getting closer to the day of Stanley's Comic-Con. I am literally working every day at Disney. And when I say I'm working every day, I did DJ's Dance and Drive in the daytime, which was a full 8-hour shift. We did 6 shows out in the sun with a car in the concrete in Cars Land. We danced. I was also doing Mad Tea Party at the time, which was a night show. And there were so many times where I was the only, it's supposed to be 2 leads who run, 2 leads who run DJ's Dance and Drive with 4 parade dancers. And then there's 4 major dancers in Mad Tea Party. There was a lot of days when it was just me at DJ's Dance and Drive, when we had a 1-person contingency is what we called those show. Also at the time, who was also on the team and working at Disney and working in the same shows as me, was Jenna and Lindy Way. But Jenna and Lindy Way also did other shows. We all did Mad Tea Party. We all did DJ Dance and Drive. And like Jenna was also doing other shows in Wilderness out in DCA. And then Lindy was coming from LA. So a lot of times we were like, okay, we have to split this burden of working at Disney all the time and then also doing core. So I would have days where I was by myself running the show, all 6 shows at Disney by myself. And then they would call me in and go, hey, we're short a girl at Mad Tea Party. Can you extend? So there was a lot of days where I was just going from all day at DJ's Dance and Drive on to Mad Tea Party. And then the next day I would do DJ's Dance and Drive into core rehearsal. Here's the thing. I'm not complaining about that. I asked for all that. If you know me, I love to work. And this isn't a knock on anyone. This is literally just my own personal philosophy for myself. I never wanted to come in after a day of work. I never wanted to come into rehearsal or come home tired and exhausted. My biggest thing was I never wanted to come in and people just saw me go, hey, I just came from work. That's not in me. I never want to do that. I never want to be like, hey. I'm always like, you know what? You suck it up because you have this. And so I never felt drained from work. I was physically exhausted. But like I'm going to core, so I'm excited to go to core. And when I'm home, I'm just excited to be home. But also I just came from a job that I love. So I'm not going to, I didn't hate anything. My life was beautiful at this time. But what I wasn't tracking the physical limits of my body, because I was in this sense where like I'm young, I'm going, I am strong, but I was also running myself into the ground. At Mad Tea Party, we were doing this set where also for Mad Tea Party, just to let you know, we would do 3 sets. 1, 2, 3 is mounted on the show. Then you'd go into rehearsals during the day to learn set number 4. Once you learn set number 4, then you mount set number 4 and you take away set number 1. So now you have set 2, 3, and 4. After set 4 is mounted, you go back into rehearsals to learn set 5. Once you're done with rehearsals learning set 5, you mount set 5 and take away set 2. So, DJ's Dance and Drive out in the street, Mad Tea Party at night, rehearsals for Mad Tea Party during the days, and then core rehearsals for Alpha, Beta, and Omega Squad. That's a lot. It all culminated in me injuring myself. In the dumbest way possible. 10,000% my fault. My injury was all my fault. I was Melinda May. We were doing a late night rehearsal. We were only like a few weeks out from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. set. It's the worst. We're like almost done with the set and we're about to perform it. And we have a late night after we did our photo shoot for Beyond the Northern Wall. The picture, that's the cover art of this series. We did that photo shoot and then everyone else went home. And then the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. people, special ops, went into the other room and we were going to run the set and add a couple things. I was Melinda May, Steve was Coulson. And there's this part where Steve was supposed to bend over and I'm supposed to jump, take a step off his back, and then do this punch to Toby, who was Ward. Like an Iron Man punch, because Melinda May beats up Ward in the first season. And so we weren't going to do it full out. Steve was like, I'm not going to do it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. This is the end of the night. It's like 1 a.m. in the morning at this point. I was like, I just came from literally work all day. We just did a bunch of stuff. We had a choreo day in the other room. We had a photo shoot. We're doing rehearsal now. I'm not going to do that with you. But I want to practice at least the jumping distance. So let me put a chair there. Just put a chair there and I will pretend to jump off the chair like it's your back. When I started the jump, I didn't start it thinking I was going to do the jump. And then when I stepped off the chair, I kind of did the jump. But I did it halfway. And that's why I say don't ever do anything halfway. You either do it full out or you mark from the get-go. Because what I did, there is footage of it. Hidalgo was fully filming this. I jump and I land. My knee if this is my knee did this. I landed and it went boom, boom. And it went side by side. I felt this happen. And then as it collided to the floor, it popped back in place. So it literally went, ga, 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 ga. In the video, I immediately grab my knee and I just hold. And Steve does not notice what's going on. I don't get injured. At this point, no one has seen me ever get injured. Koki's the first one to notice. You see in the video, Koki just kind of looks and he's like, she's not moving. Like the choreo requires her to move. and she's not moving. And then you see Soulmate crawl up to me, and she like parts my hair's like in front of my face. She parts my hair, and I remember her asking me, "Are you okay?" And I'm trying not to speak because I'm literally going to throw up. The nausea that swept over my body, I literally was like, and in my head I thought, this is not okay. I'm not gonna get up from this. Usually if an injury happens, I can walk it off, but I was like, this is not a moment. So I'm holding it in because like, if I open my mouth, it's gonna be exorcist projectile vomit. I hold it in and I'm like, I'm not okay. Like Inosuke in Demon Slayer's like, it's okay. I was like, it's not okay. So then they turn off the music and everyone comes around, and immediately I don't cry, I don't make noise, because to me, if someone's injured, or at least if I'm injured, crying isn't going to help anyone. Freaking out isn't going to help anyone. You have to hone it down, because you're not going to be able to tell how bad it really is if you just fly off the first handle. So in my head, I'm screaming in my head. In reality, everyone just like quietly gathers around me, and I'm like whispering, I'm like, okay, I think I dislocated my knee. I can't move it. And so the girls lovingly, like Chibs and Sonali and everyone starts like, Lauren, they start running around. Oh, Lauren! I totally forgot, Lauren. How could I forget Lauren? Lauren was Reina. I'm sorry, Lauren. I love you. Lauren's there too. She's definitely Special Ops Squad. They all go running to grab stuff. Toby, Tobias Dog, Dr. Dog, who is our doctor, sits down next to me, cross-legged. I'm just sitting there in the middle of the studio, holding my leg out and trying not to throw up, and I look at him, and he whispers, he goes, I'm a doctor. I'm so sorry. I don't remember anything I'm supposed to do right now. I've been researching T cells for months. I don't remember any of my basic training. He doesn't remember that, but I remember him telling me that, because I remember laughing, going, what? So everyone just kind of gathers around. And they like put a thing, my leg at this point, it won't straighten. It's like this weird bent thing, and it's starting to swell. And I'm talking everyone through it, because I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's welcome to my TED Talk. Let's talk through this. I can move my toes. Good sign. Can I move my ankle? I can move my ankle. Will you guys look at that? And so everyone's kind of like laughing a little bit, and like we're all really chill, and I'm like, let's watch the video because I kind of want to see it. And everyone's like, no, let's not watch it. And then, but everyone's low-key like, oh my God, let's watch it. So we're watching it. They're holding it in front of me, and everyone's looking at the screen. And I remember this moment, Jenna looked at me, and it was the one moment where I thought I was going to burst into tears. Not because of the pain, but because I was like, this is it. I've destroyed my knee. This is my entire career. My career's over. And there was a moment where I thought I was going to burst into tears, and I looked at Jenna, and she looked at me like, God-loving Jenna. She was just like, and I was like, no. I'm like, it's not going to help anyone right now. It's not going to help anyone. So then we finished watching the video, and everyone's like, do we need to get an ambulance? I was like, no, we're not getting an ambulance. It doesn't matter how much of an emergency it is. I'm not paying for an ambulance. Granted, thankfully, I have prepared for this moment because Capricorn, I'm a full-time employee. I have full benefits. I have medical insurance, and I made sure I put away enough money that I had really good medical coverage. So I was like, I will go in the morning to Kaiser, and I will get it looked at. We just gotta get to the morning. I'll get myself a ride there. So they're like, okay, we need to take you out of the studio so we can clean the studio, and we'll put you in the lobby. It was like, I think it was like Hidalgo and Toby, I think, or like Jen or someone. They lifted me up, and second wave of nausea, I turned gray, fully gray. They put me in the lobby, they start cleaning up, and as I'm sitting there, Amy's looking at me, and she's like, you don't look good. And I'm still talking through it. And I'm like, I don't feel good. Like, my stomach. She's like, maybe we need to get you some food. And so Chibs gives me her fruit cup that she had. And then I was like, as you guys are, I'm like telling them this. I'm like, you guys are talking to me. And it sounds like I'm gently going into water. Like you're starting to sound fuzzy. I'm fainting, and I'm talking through my fainting. So if you were at Jason's class last night and he said, I like to talk, he's not wrong. I like to talk. I like to talk through all of my crap. And I'm talking, I was like, I think I'm going, and then Amy's like, I think you're going into shock. And I was like, I think I'm going into shock. I think I'm fainting. Chibs pushes me down. She goes, oh my God, just faint already. Which was great. Then, like, it was so sweet. I lived with Jenna at the time, so we got me into Jenna's car. I don't know how I fit because my leg was just, it was swollen. It was a gross monster. That thing looked like an inflated hot dog. Ugh, my knee looked crazy. And then Hidalgo and Lauren drove my truck home. And then we got to the house, and like I could just make it to the second story where the living room was, and I just sat up, and like Matt was like, okay, I'll take you in the morning. So Matt's asleep on the couch. I didn't sleep that whole night. I just sat there with my leg up thinking. And then my sister came downstairs, and I forgot, oh my God, I didn't tell my sister that I got injured. So she looked, and she was like, what happened? And I was like, nah, I dislocated. So I ended up going to the hospital, going to a specialist, and they inspected it and everything, and then when the doctor went away, Matt was like, you know what, it might be fine. It just might be something, like I've torn the meniscus in my other knee before, and I was out for maybe like 6 weeks max, and then I was able to come back. Again, I hurt myself at Disney, and I was able to come back to do electronica way back in the day, back in 2010. He's like, maybe it'll just be like that. Maybe it's just something it was a light tear, just a couple weeks off of it, you'll be fine. The doctor comes in, and he goes, it was a full dislocated knee. So you've torn your ACL. It's gone. He's like, we haven't been able to do an MRI yet, and we've done an X-ray, but from what I feel, there is because like you can tell by like when you pull the knee, you can tell if there's any tension. He's like, there's nothing there. You have no ACL, and by the looks of it, you've completely torn your meniscus. When I saw the MRI later on, my meniscus literally looked like if you took wet paper and you just kind of shredded it. It's gross. I still have those pictures because I think they look awesome. But he's like, you're going to need full knee reconstructive surgery. That means you're out for like 6 months. Minimum. Here's the thing. This was back in the day when medicine accelerates at such a strong and rapid pace. But at the time, like nowadays, you tear your ACL, it's like 3 months max, and you can get back into it with physical therapy and everything. Back in the day, like even if it was 2012, I had been around dancers my whole life who had torn their ACLs, and you don't come back from that. Like that was it. This was back in the day when medicine was still evolving, even as advanced as it was. An ACL tear was like the end of an athlete's career or the end of a dancer's career. I've danced with dancers who had ACL tears, and it was still really rough. Lauren is someone who came from an ACL tear in high school, and that's actually kind of why she went from her one side of athletics to the dancing side. So I remember he told me that, and I sat there, and it was funny. Matt started kind of crying next to me, and he was like, I'm so sorry, because he knew the magnitude of what it meant that I couldn't dance for 6 months. And I'm just sitting there, and it's like Wednesday afternoon, and I'm just like, oh, crap. This is gonna suck. And then you know what I did? A week later, Tuesday, I go to core, and I sit a chair in the middle of the room. I'm wearing a skirt. I have my knee. They can't do constructive surgery until the swelling goes down because the swelling was so bad. They're like, you're going to have to go into physical therapy for your knee to get your full mobility back before you go in surgery, or else you're never going to get your mobility back. But before we can even go into surgery, your swelling needs to go down. So this is going to, even before you get into surgery, it's going to be a long time. So I was like, great. So a week later, I go into core. It's Tuesday, 9 p.m. I sit a chair down in the front of the room, and I get my sister up, and then my sister is now my human avatar. I taught a piece, and for the parts that I could do, because I still had both arms, and I still had one leg, and I still had the rest of my body. I just didn't have one knee. So I taught a piece from a chair. And so that is why I don't have a lot of empathy as a human being, just to be quite honest. I don't have a lot of empathy, because if you can't do anything, guess what? You can still do everything. Who cared? Who cared that my knee wasn't working? I still had 30 dancers who could dance around me. I still had a whole soulmate who could help me direct a team. I had benefits, my unemployment, financially, I was great. Financial stability is such a big thing, guys. No one's going to do that for you. You can't complain about it. You have to prep yourself starting now. I was such a little loser, and a great loser, that for years I had been planning financially, meticulously. I was like, in case anything, I'm so paranoid. I'm like Bobby Singer from Supernatural. I was like, make sure that you secure yourself. So you gotta build up money so you can buy your own house. So you're not paying rent. So you're paying a mortgage. And I had a house and I had a mortgage. And I was like, now you gotta make sure you get benefits and you go full time in a company. I had all that. Financially, I was great. No one's gonna do that for you. You cannot blame your parents. You cannot blame anyone else. You can only blame yourself. You are responsible for you. So I had that all squared away. I was like, you know what? It is what it is, Santa. You're not going to have a knee. Everyone else is going to do it. So, Hana popped in as Melinda May. And the first time we did Alpha Squad, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at Stan Lee's Comic-Con. We still haven't made it there yet, guys. Stan Lee's Comic-Con, we go in, and I have a cane. I had my... I actually got a clear cane similar to Eckert's cane from Electronica because... Tron was one of my first shows, and I was like, you know, if I'm going to have a cane, I got to do it in style. So I didn't like crutches because they hurt my armpits, and I was in physical therapy. Physical therapy sucked. I think I threw up. I threw up bile about 3 times in physical therapy because the pain was gross. It's so intense. But also I'm like in there with other people who had their ACLs torn, and they're like giving me these epic stories. Someone tore their ACL because they were in a judo competition, and I was like, this woman's crazy. And this other guy, he's like, oh, I'm in competitive soccer and I tore my ACL. And then we had this lovely high schooler who came in. She was like, I was at school and then my friend scared my other friend, but I got scared because of that friend and I fell down and I tore my ACL. And I laughed for like 18 days after that because that was the best story of a torn ACL ever. So, oh yeah, Kamikaze. That's what it was called. It wasn't even called Stanley. It was called Kamikaze. We went to Kamikaze. I went as Hand from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I remember that because Amy was Maria Hill. And to this day, we still call each other Hill and Hand. That was our big thing. And I remember driving with her in the car. And I was in a cane, just walking around. And it was so exhausting walking around that con with a cane. So one of the other things we did at that con was while I was at home, just injured and like stuck on the second story. Sorry, backtrack. Here's why it's correlated. I'm a strong person. I'm very strong and I'm very independent. We know this. But if it wasn't for CORE, if it wasn't for my friends on CORE and my corpsmen, I would not have gotten through that injury as unscathed as I am now. Because it was so amazing to have such a strong support system behind me. There was not a day when a corpsman wasn't with me. I didn't need anyone with me. I was like, there's delivery, and I have water, and there's a TV, and we moved my computer to the second story, so I was like, I have everything I need. But a lot of the corpsmen would, if they were free, they'd come over. That's where I got really close with Goge and Steve and Yosh, our prop master Yosh. They would come every chance they get to come and take care of me. If they weren't there, Jenna and my sister and Matt, they were there. They lived at HQ, but they were also working. And then there were times when, like, Brandon, if he had a weekend free, he'd come over. Koki was over. Somi was over. Everyone was coming over and taking their turns of kind of like being with me. And they really got me through that time. And leading up into Kamikaze, there was a night where me and Brandon were talking about his Gambit cosplay. And he was like, you know what? We've never done a cosplay like outside of just CORE. What if we just did one for ourselves? And I was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting here. Let me learn how to sew. So I learned how to sew because I was like, you know what? Nothing better to do. YouTube was my friend. YouTube and calling up NJ to help me thread a machine. So I was like, how do you thread a machine? How do you do this? So I learned how to sew during my injury. And we decided to do a whole X-Men cosplay just as anything. Like, not even for a performance. Grande ice mocha, extra ice, extra whip. It wasn't for a performance. It was just for the joy of us. And he was like, we can do an X-Men cosplay because you can be Professor X and we can put you in a wheelchair with the X's. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so down. So I remember making my sister's Psylocke at that time. And I made Jenna's Emma Frost. And I did a lot of the accessories for Matt's Cyclops. And we like fashioned everyone. We gave everyone a character. Me and Brandon broke down like how we were going to make their cosplays, and we posed it to CORE, and CORE was like, oh my gosh, we're so down. And like Amy was like, you know what, I think I can put together my Jubilee together. So it was great because we had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. cosplay together, which was the performance. And then the next day we went again just to enjoy the convention as the X-Men. And it was cool because I got to be Professor X and in a wheelchair, which is like I needed, but I felt like I was cosplaying. For the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. set, it was awesome. It was the first time we did a non-anime set. And I remember, like, I was holding the camera up and I was filming for them, which, by the way, was not a good idea because it's a pretty long set. It's like 12 minutes. And I'm hovering on one leg the whole time because I can't hold my cane. And I'm like, this wasn't a good idea. Like, so that we don't have that on our channel right now, but it's because the video is like, it's questionable. But that set was awesome because people in the comic world and the pop culture world of like movies and television didn't know who we were yet. Anime people knew who we were, kind of, but comic book people didn't know who we were. And so it was great because as they're doing the set, like I was watching people come into the room because we performed for Nerd Fest, which was a small, like not main stage, little festival of nerdy things. So library bards performed for Nerd Fest, and then they had I think I don't know if the Flux Capacitors were there at the time, but there was other like nerdy bands. I remember there was a woman who played Star Wars on her electric violin, and then it was kind of in the shape of the Millennium Falcon, and then it shot out sparks at one point. It was amazing. And then there was a burlesque Jabba the Hutt. I know that's weird, but it was amazing. And yes, library bards were like, if you guys aren't following library bards, they do the best parody songs. They're brilliant, and they're just beautiful singers. So Nerdfest was all of that, and this was our first time. They had a dance crew for Nerdfest, so people were coming in like, oh my gosh, like they're doing Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they're dancing, and it's good. So Kamikaze was just great. And then the next day we came as X-Men, and that was just super fun. It was also super fun because like everyone's taking turns pushing me around. I'm doing the best I can to maneuver, but it's very cramped at a convention. And I remember Amy, little Spitfire that she is, she was like, as Jubilee, she's just pushing Professor X around. And I have like the silver wheelchair with the big X's on the side. And someone, I think in the crowd was like, oh my gosh, like you have the best cosplay. It's just, you just get to sit there all day. And I had heard that all day long. Everyone's saying like, oh, you're lucky. You just get pushed around. Oh, you just have to sit all day. And so I was like, yeah, I actually need it and blah, blah, blah. But then like, this was about the millionth time that we heard it. And someone was like, you have the easiest cosplay. And Amy, God love Amy, she literally was like, hey, she needs it. And the guy was like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Because Jubilee just yelled at him. It was also one of the first times that some of our corpsmen had to deal with a lot of the problems that women deal with and cosplayers deal with, which is a lot of harassment. So I had Jenna dressed as Emma Frost, and I had my sister dressed as Psylocke in the really cute purple Leo. It's happened throughout the years of core. But I think this was the worst one. There was a man when we were walking by LA Live who started just following my sister on a bike. We're walking as a group, and she's walking with all of us. Like, she's walking next to Yosh and like Brandon, who's dressed as Gambit. And this guy's just heckling the bejesus out of my sister. Literally. And she's just ignoring. She's like, you know what? I'm used to it. And she just gives him a day, or even just tells him like, sir, you need to go away. He doesn't stop following her. It was funny because Steve, dressed as no, he wasn't Wolverine. I think he was still Coulson at the time. He was someone. He's pushing my wheelchair. He was kind of flabbergasted. He was like, oh my gosh, this guy is not letting up. And I was like, and we were kind of too far back and we're trying to catch up. And I was like, yeah, dude, like this is a norm. This is normcore for like a lot of girls. And I remember for Steve, he was just kind of thrown that like there were people out there. And so it was just a good indicator of what core as a team did, which we did as a group. I think Yosh was Wolverine one day and then Steve was Wolverine another day. So that's why I don't remember what he was. But because that guy wouldn't stop, core, just in our minds, especially the girls are so hardcore on core. Like, if you need someone to protect you, yeah, you have the dudes, but you have the ladies. Like, the ladies will not stand for this. Immediately, we condense, we turn as a group, and we just push him away. He literally keeps following her almost all the way up to the convention center. My sister handles it like a champ. You wouldn't even believe she was like flustered because she was like, you suck. And as a team, we just were like, you know what? We got to stay closer together because we have hot girls on our team. And that's a thing. So I, like, literally, as Professor X, I'm like looking out for everyone. Nifa was also there, you know what I mean? And, like, which was funny because this was when we first met Osric Chow. If you ever seen Osric Chow, he was Kevin Tran, the Prophet on Supernatural. He's just also a great actor. He's done a lot of work with Dez. And I remember meeting him outside of LA Live late at night when I couldn't get on the sidewalk in my wheelchair. And I rolled up and we all went up and we're like, oh my God, we're huge fans of you. You like represent Asians. And now like Osric, Sammy, and Dez are all best friends. So that's just like weird. That's weird. But we did Kamikaze and it was my first con with the injury. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be okay. It was one of those things where I was like, this is going to be okay. We're going to be fine. And that was the first time Alpha Squad got to go out and really flex their wings. And I was like, you know what? They're doing great. This is awesome. It's kind of a blessing in disguise because while me and Soulmate are directing this team, it was nice having a director who was pulled back and could watch things as a whole. So that Soulmate, if she's performing on stage, that's too much for what, like we knew what that felt like to be on stage, but then also having to take care of stuff off stage as well. That's a lot. So then we finish Kamikaze and now we got to go into Maxed Out. Now, when I went to my doctors, I was like, okay, was starting to get up. I was starting to do better. I could still walk with a cane, but I didn't need my wheelchair as much anymore. I still don't have an ACL. I still don't have, my meniscus is still nasty in there. My knee is still unwell. But we're hitting Maxed Out time. And I was like, okay, I think it's time to schedule my surgery. I decided. I was like, I can put some weight on it. Here's what I'm going to do. I want to do Maxed Out. And that was a choice. No one should do that. I'm not saying anyone should do that. And I'm not saying I'm stronger for doing that. This was just a choice with no regrets. That I decided I want to perform for Maxed Out and a minimal pace. And then after that, right after Maxed Out, I'm going to go straight into surgery. And then once surgery hits, then it's boom, 6 months. 6 months, you're out. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, bleh. So we put together Burlesque Set. Burlesque Set was really amazing because as people know, Burlesque was the set that we won first place. And as it will be said by anyone who wasn't on Core, when we won first place, we were very annoying. I wrote it out here. We were admittedly very obnoxious when we won. I remember they announced us as the winners, and I fell to the ground crying. Soulmate fell to the ground crying. We lasted way too long up there. We took way too much of the time, and people were like, oh my God, just take your trophy and go. But I won't apologize. I don't feel bad for lasting that long because admittedly it was very bittersweet. The team had worked so dang hard for Burlesque. Like them in rehearsal and like really pulling out the stops to really do this set justice was amazing. With the costuming, everyone went full out with the costuming. Like, we're not going to go halfway with this. And then even when we were doing rehearsals, like I was able to get up. I choreographed still on my injured knee. I got to choreograph with Soulmate. We got to choreograph the Ed Sheeran piece together and then going over Closer together. And then we figured out ways, like little bits where I could come in and I was like, okay, well, I could dance for this long. And so I'm going to do this much. And then Closer, I'm just going to stand on the chair and whack. But I didn't really get to dance full out. And then we won. So we won with a set that I didn't get to dance my most at, which was amazing. But also there's that little part that I was like, crap, I didn't get to dance the set that won. And we weren't going to go back to Maxed Out after that. We just wanted to, prove ourselves. And then we have other things that we have to do. We can't go back to Maxed Out. We don't have the time to. So that was our last Maxed Out. I didn't really get to perform it. But I was so proud of the team. I was so proud of my Soulmate. We achieved what we came to achieve and we got first place. I remember we were outside and I'm like leaning on my cane and everyone's a mess. Everyone's crazy. And we had the trophy, the big old trophy. It's in the living room right now between us. And at first, like Matt wanted a picture because he's like, he's been there with me and Soulmate since the beginning. And then like Toby wanted a picture. And then it was weird because then everyone on the team wanted an individual picture with me and Soulmate and the trophy. It was like a weird meet and greet line for like a Disney character, but for us, it was not intended at all. But it was funny, and I bring that up because I'm gonna shoot this to Jason because he had his class last night, and he has a class this Saturday at 11 a.m. Come join it. But Jason, he literally, this is his first, not his first time, this is his second year with us. He was so excited. We're standing there, like, everyone's crying, like, we were there with Pikachu, like, Pikachu had been with us since the beginning, and he's like, oh my gosh, we placed, and same with, like, Buta, and Toby, and everyone who had been with us since the get-go, like, Lauren and Rio, we're like, we made it 3 years in, and we finally got first. Then Jason comes bounding up. He literally jumps into my arms. I'm standing, I have no knee, I'm holding a cane. Soulmate's next to me. He goes, I'm not going to jump at Sonali because she's not going to be able to hold me. Let me go to the injured person. He literally jumps on me. Everyone screams. I drop my cane so I can catch Jason because in my head I wasn't like, save myself. I was like, catch Jason. So anytime people say I don't think about my chorusman, I do. I sacrifice my knee for him. He jumped. I caught him. Everyone starts yelling at Jason. They're like, her knee! Her knee! My cane is thrown to the side. Jason immediately regrets what he did, but his way to remedy it is to jump down, put me in a headlock, so now I'm like bent over in a headlock, and he whispers in my ear, don't make a big deal. So, if you're wondering where don't make a big deal came from, it came from that. It came from Jason saying don't make a big deal because I just possibly re-injured you. Anyways, after that, we go into one final rehearsal before I go into surgery. And it was the last night. I did break down at that last rehearsal because we got to do a freestyle. And I wasn't crazy mobile, but I was able to get up and dance. And I danced with the team. And we danced in the dark. And I ended up just curling up on the floor and crying with my team because I was like, I really didn't think I was going to dance after that. I didn't think the ACL reconstructive surgery was going to be good. I was scared. I was really scared because I was going to go in the morning. And I went in and I got the surgery. And I remember I only remember because my sister filmed me. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say coming out of that surgery, all drugged up. So, I mean, if you want, you have my consent to film whatever I say. She didn't catch it on film. But apparently the first thing I said coming out of surgery was, Koki needs to not sickle his feet. And then the second thing I said, which she caught on camera, was if Jason would just remember his choreography, he'd be a much better dancer. I literally came out of surgery giving notes. And at that point, it's just like, you know what, Kayla, shut up. Go to sleep. I also remember the pain was really bad, and the pain was really bad for 4 days afterwards. I wasn't allowed to move, so it was sweet because my sister Matt and Jenna had prepared my room. They had cleaned my whole room for me when I came home from surgery because they plopped me in my bed and I was stuck at the top of HQ on the 3rd floor in my room. I wasn't able to leave for like 2 weeks, and I wasn't going to be able to leave that bed for a while. I had a blood drain sticking out of my... Guys, like, my knee looked hit. It did not look good. I had a blood drain sticking out of my leg, and for 4 days after surgery, after the nerve block wore off, the pain was really bad. I had like this, it's called a fridge. It's like a clear plastic box that looks like this, and you put ice water in it, and then you attach a hose with like a Velcro thingy around your leg, and then you turn it on, and it circulates cold water, so it helps the swelling, because the swelling was pretty bad. But for 4 days, like my whole right side of my body was in a dull, achy pain. And they had given me some of the hardest painkillers, like really hard stuff. It's the stuff that when people say after surgeries they get addicted to these drugs, those are the drugs. I actually stopped taking my pain meds after 4 days. Straight up, I chose pain over my drugs because I couldn't poop on these drugs. I was constipated, and there is no greater relief in the world than pooping, and I wasn't pooping for 4 days, so I said, you know what, I will take pain over not pooping. Poo is so much more important to me. So I stopped taking my drugs 4 days in, and then 4 days in, I was like, oh my god, a nurse came over. She was finally going to take the blood drain out after 4 days, and she pulled out this tubing that was this long with a sharp edge. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's more tubing than should be in there. And I was like, what? She was like, this was curled up on your sciatic nerve. That could have caused some real damage. And I was like, what? And she's like, is that why it's been so painful? And I was like, yeah, it's like really, even now it's way better. Now that you took that out, that's way better. Like, now I don't feel like I'm going to throw up all the time. So, stress. And then when I was bedridden, it was great because I had this big king-size bed, and Cora would just come and would love on me. They would just come, and like I would have sleepovers with them. Like Jenna slept in the bed with me, and my sister, when I needed it, soulmate would come in. Steve, Goge, and Yosh were just always there for me. Like my bed just became my safe haven, and I would wake up and there would be a Korsman there with me even when I was on the drugs and I was like groggy. Like I remember waking up and seeing like Goge there, and he was just like, he would tell me stories of what he did that day at work at Disney, and I just like, Core was really there for me. Ralston as best friend, that's when we got really close as best friends, because like he's such a one-on-one person, and that was the time where I could really talk to him, and we talked about everything. And then even with Shishi, I had Shishi at the time, and he would always come in there and like talk to me, and then Trixie would come. So like Core really got me through the worst of it. And then even then, as the worst of it, I was by myself a lot of the time too. As much as Core was there, the major stuff I had to do by myself. So when I had to shower, or like I dressed my own wounds, they would replenish my ice thing, but I always redid my own dressings. When I showered, I had to saran wrap my leg from like the hip down to the ankle, and I'd have to go to the shower, and the shower was like a slidey door, so I had to like hop over, and then I'd put my stool in, and then like have to like oddly maneuver myself to the shower, and then get myself shower, and then like stand up, and then take the stool out, dry it off, and then like come out of the shower, not slip and fall and die, and then like unsaran wrap my leg, and then redo the dressings, clean the wound, everything, take my meds, put myself to bed. Like I would clean my room and everything, and the water heater broke during that winter. It's winter and we had no water heater, so I'm just taking cold showers. If no one was home to boil water so we could tabo, you had to take a cold shower. So that was a very stressful time. I will say I had probably my lowest points ever. There were some nights where I couldn't sleep and I just stayed up, and I mourned the loss of dancing, of what was normal for me. And I really was scared because my knee looked gnarly, and I was like, there's no way you're not gonna dance ever again. And that didn't turn out to be true, because then we go into the new year. Oh my gosh, I forgot to say okay, it's already 7:05. I'm sorry, we're not going to get to the Raisins reason today. We'll probably do it next week. But it's because before we get into the winter, before we go into 2016, before I did my injury, I forgot that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. performed at LostCon. I have to mention LostCon because LostCon was an amazing convention that we did Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for. This was also before my surgery. LostCon was before my surgery. This is how we did LostCon. We were prepping for it. We got asked to do it by Allison Meyer, who was in charge of Anime California. She also did LostCon with this company. And she's like, can you guys perform at it? And we're like, cool, we'll do our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. set. And we revised it, and we added some people. We expanded it. And we were going to take it to LostCon. As we're driving out, everyone was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then like the people we added, which was like Jason and Goge and stuff like that, and Matt, they weren't necessarily the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. characters, they were just S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. And then I went in that was the first time I got to be Peggy Carter. So I wore like a blue suit, and I had a red hat, and I'm hobbling in on my cane. And I was Peggy Carter. And we're driving to this convention, and I remember Brandon calling us on the phone, because what we do is we always send someone, whoever can get there first, to survey the area, because we need to get as much information, because we're not given all the information when we first go to a convention. We don't know the dimensions of the stage, we don't know where the stage is, we don't know how the tech is, we don't know what they need. So like I said in past episodes, we always have to have someone go and do some recon. So Brandon and Koki were there doing recon, and Brandon calls us on the phone, and he's like, are you guys on your way? And I'm like, yeah, we're coming. We're driving right now. Are you guys there? He goes, yeah, we did some recon for you guys. And I was like, great. And he was like, I was like, how is it? And he was like, it's great. Truthfully, it was great. He's just like, it's, we're gonna prep you before you come in. So all of us who are in the car at the time were like, oh no. So we go into this hotel, and it's a pretty small con. It's only in the ballrooms of a hotel. We go in and we meet Brandon and Koki at the entrance, and he goes, okay, it's small. Fine, that's fine. He's like, the crowd is a lot older, and I mean older. And that wasn't a problem, it wasn't a problem. We were only worried because we didn't know if our performance would do well with an older crowd. And when we say older crowd, it's like what you see in movies. Like conventions nowadays, especially San Diego Comic-Con, is all about, it's not so much the old school convention world. It's a lot about pop culture. So people announce, even at Anime Expo, you announce the latest show coming out. Big movies, big premieres. You get famous celebrities and actors and singers and performers. They come. That's what these conventions have started to become as a whole. This was old school convention. This was Dungeons and Dragons, tabletop gaming, people dressed as Dumbledore because they were Dumbledore's age, like Lord of the Rings, old school Doctor Who back in the day convention goers. It was amazing, and it was so much fun. It was so much fun hanging out with this older crowd. The exhibition hall was really, really low key, but like one of the gifts that I still have to this day is there was a table with like these little booklet earrings and book necklace, and Brandon and some of the corpsmen bought me a necklace filled with all of my favorite books, with like Harry Potter and Edgar Allan Poe and Alice in Wonderland, and they got me that. And me and Yosh were going to be in the audience filming, and we go into the main events hall for the performance, and we're like, we're doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We don't even know if these people have watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I am not kidding you when I say the front row of that crowd was automated wheelchairs are parked in the front row. The whole front row is automated wheelchairs, and these people are sassy and amazing. And when I tell you they got every single reference in that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. set, I am not kidding you. There's a part, if you haven't seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., this isn't going to make sense to you, but there's a part where Matt comes in. Jenna is Simmons, and Matt comes in with like a blanket on his head, a black blanket, and he comes in and he like grabs Jenna and takes her out. And me and Yosh are in the audience, and someone in the audience goes, oh my god, that was the obelisk taking Simmons and transporting her across the galaxy. And we were like, you got that? That is this is a far obscure reference. I can't believe you guys got it. This crowd was a hype. They were so responsive. It was such a fun convention, and we had such a ball at that. And it just goes to show that, again, you can't judge a book by its cover. We totally were like, we don't know if this is going to work. They ended up being some of the coolest people ever. And so awesome. And so that was the end of 2015. We ended 2015 with doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm getting injured. We performed and we won at Maxed Out. And we are going to start the new year, 2016 year, with a whole bunch of stuff. And I was planning on finishing 2016 year in this session, but I took a long time to talk about my injury, and I'm sorry. But it is kind of relative, because it is relative to how everything changes, at least from my perspective as a director, and then how we are running things, because that's what it is when you're a leader. Everything you do and every decision you make and every action you take has a direct reflection on your team. And I also wanted to say just how amazing Core was in that time when I needed them most. So for the alumni who watched this, who knew me at that time, like, thank you guys for everything that you did for me, because that was, like some of you guys were saying, an anime story reference. I will close this with saying that while I had my low points, some dark nights during that time, I will say, one, a lot of people come out of injuries and injury surgeries really low and addicted to drugs. and come out with a lot of mental health issues, because it is a thing. It is such a large thing to have to get over. And I didn't come out with anything addicted to drugs, no mental health injuries, and it's because there was a phone call my dad gave me, like a couple of weeks post surgery, because my parents live up in the Bay Area, and he called and he was just checking up on me. And we had a talk, and I was telling him what Core was doing and what I was doing. And then he said, "Kay, you sound happy." I said, "Yeah, Dad, I am happy." And he was like, "You know what, that is such a major thing, because a lot of people, they come out of these injuries and they're so sad and they get depressed, and it makes sense. But a lot of what your healing does, a lot of it is willpower and spirit. Your spirit and your energy and your soul helps with the healing. So when your spirit is low, your healing will be slow. But when your spirit is high, it just makes everything better." He's like, "I'm really glad to hear that you don't sound low. You sound in high spirits. You're going to come out of this, baby. You're going to come out of this strong." And I was like, "Thanks, Dad." And then I remember from that, I was like, well, I have a lot to thank Core for that. And a lot to thank of just like the people within Core that I kept as my very close circle of friends. And I really do appreciate my very, very close-knit circle of friends, because while I say I do have a lot of friends, I keep a very few like this. And you know who you are. Hidogs is in here right now. He knows he's one of them. That's my brother. Nifa's one of them for sure. And so they really got me through that time. And they would get me through, me and Soulmate, through the rest of 2016 year, which was such a wild ride. So if you guys come back next week, Wednesday at 6 p.m., I will go into 2016 year of the Core Dance Crew. It is insane. So much happens. You will finally find out the reason of why we say raisins. I promise I will tell you the reason of why we say raisins next week. But we will also hit when we first created Soy Socks, which is our idol group. When we first ventured out for the first time at a performance, that was where we had to travel to perform. That happened this year. The first time we got to do WonderCon, which ended up being the time that we performed at the Microsoft Theater LA Live. It was the last time we would ever do the collegiate competition circuit. It was the last time we would perform at... No, it wasn't the last time. I'm such a liar. One of the last times we performed at UB and Fusion, and it would be the year that me and Soulmate decide to do a sequel to Beyond the Northern Wall, and we created Into the Kingdom. And then the first year we performed at San Diego Comic-Con for the first time, and the first and only time we ever did HHI. So that's coming all of next week. It is such a chock-full year. It is crazy, you guys. So I will be here next week, Wednesday, 6 p.m., right here on the Core's YouTube channel. My name is Kilmari. If you haven't checked out our latest videos, Card Captors from Across the Multiverse at ALA will be dropping today. It's almost over, but there was a Q&A today on our Instagram with my bro TP, Liz, and Juju talking about this Friday at... I know when it's at. Hold on. Give me like 0.2 seconds. I don't know when it's at. Friday, 7:30, I think. Friday is the improv session on our Instagram. Well, you'll be at 7. Thank you, Nifa. Friday at 7. Tune into our Instagram. Bro TP will be leading a kind of workshop class and games to help build your improv. So if you've ever been nervous about improv, join in the class. Because no one can see you, and you can just do it on your own. Or you can just tune in and watch her and Juju kind of work through teaching how to improv and how to build your improv. Also, we have Jason's class on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. If you didn't take his class last night, you can still take a class. I think he's teaching a different piece this Saturday on Zoom. Follow us on Instagram. The Zoom code will be in there. And then, of course, all the way up until August, we are taking pre-orders on our hat. Okay, here's the thing. Jason's like, we don't know what it looks like. Just one. Yes, we do know what it looks like. You know why? Because it's right here. It's an arsenic and cyanide hat. It has the logo on it, our awesome logo made by the amazing NJ. If you're not following her on the Penguin Creates, make sure you are. She's doing awesome masks right now and vinyls or not vinyls, the stickers. But she helped create this logo. This logo and this hat was made by Arsenic and Cyanide. Can you see that? Yeah, Arsenic and Cyanide. Follow them on Instagram as well. We are pre-ordering these hats. They're awesome. They're snapbacks. They're so cool. So make sure you get those orders in. We will also be releasing new merchandise coming soon. So make sure you subscribe to this channel. Like and subscribe. YouTube influencer. Because we have a lot of updates coming on this channel. A lot of awesome things. So with that being said, that was episode 3. Part 3 of the history of the core dance crew. My name is Kayla Malari. I talk way too much, but that's why I have a talk show, so I have something to talk to, which is you guys. And you don't have to be here if you don't want to. So you were here, so I thank you. With that being said, we're going to call it out. If you've never called it out with us before, you put your hands out. I say sotomato, not soltomato. Gosh. Sotomato on 3. And then we go 1, 2, 3. We hit the salute, because you offer up your hearts to humanity, and you say, so tomato. So all together now, hand out, so tomato on 3. 1, 2, 3. So tomato. That's it for my show. Thank you guys. You've been an awesome audience. I will see you next week.